Welcome to this episode of Manufacturing Talk Radio. I'm Tim Grady, and I'm here with Lou Wise. And momentarily, we'll be joined by Anthony Nieves, who is the committee chair for the Institute for Supply Management Services Report on Business. And Lou, it looks like we had him for a moment, and then he dropped out. So, I feel like we're doing live television here.
Yeah, well, he's coming in the door now, and here he is, the infamous Anthony Nieves.
As soon as he connects to the audio, we'll get him back in the program here. And Anthony, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Sorry about that little technical difficulty there.
You just clicked the wrong button and poof.
Yeah. Went into vapor air, right?
Yeah, that's right. So Anthony, your report, I wish the manufacturing report was as high a number as your report, because your report's holding up pretty well.
Well, fortunately, at least we're 80% plus better portion of the economy, right?
Yeah. But manufacturing gets all the attention.
As it should. I mean, it's right into the title of the show, Manufacturing Talk Radio, right? It doesn't say Services Talk Radio or non-manufacturing talk radio.
Yeah.
Would you like to do that?
We can give you lots of pointers.
It'll cost you a yellow jacket.
What size are you?
46 long this week.
This week. Okay, sounds good.
I've been that size for a while, so I'm in good shape there.
All right, that sounds great. That sounds great. So you came up with some pretty good numbers. You want to start telling our audience about the February report?
Absolutely. I wish I can take sole credit for these numbers. Well, when they're good, I'll take credit for them. If they're not so good, I'll blame it on someone else. But anyway, these numbers actually came in month over month. If you look at the composite index, down 0.1 percentage point, and that is buoyed by the strong readings that we see for the indexes that make up the composite. You have the new orders at 62.6, which is up 2.2 percentage points. A little bit of a pullback on business activity, 4.1 percentage points down to 56.3, still over mid 50s is a good number. Employment had a nice bounce back. It was unchanged last month and contracted the month before. So it's up from the 50 unchanged reading to 54.0. And deliveries, boy, you look at deliveries, 47.6, faster deliveries. That's the first time that's happened since 2020. I'm sorry, since 2008. So when you look at that, 47.6, down 2.4 percentage points. Respondents are indicating we've had improved capacities, logistical improvements. Same thing on the employment side, improvements in backfilling positions, some additional applicants. 10 industries reported increase in employment, 4 a decrease. But overall, when you look at these indexes in totality, it's a very good story here for the month of February.
I find it interesting that you don't even hear about recession anymore. And if you do hear about it, they're talking about the pillow soft landing version. You don't hear anybody go, oh my God, it's recession, it's recession.
You're right. And I think that there are still some potential headwinds out there. But for the most part, if you think back to, Tim Fury and I have been very consistent, and we're only reporting on what the respondents tell us. It's not like we're the gurus and we have a crystal ball. But from what our respondents told us all through each of the monthly reports, as well as in the semi-annual release that we went through back in December, they felt that 2023 was going to be a better year. And if there were any chance of a recession, it wouldn't be a long drawn out recession. It wouldn't be a deep tranche. It'd be something, short. And as you said, Lou, a soft landing. Again, we don't know what the future has in store. There's still many headwinds out there. I shouldn't say many, but we know of all the geopolitical concerns we have going on right now that can really, derail the train. And right now, everything looks to be going quite well. We'd like to see, as Tim mentioned, we'd like to see manufacturing come up a bit from where they are. They're not, in the doldrums. They're still up in the high 40s. We like to see them get over that 50 baseline. But when you see that services are definitely driving the economy right now, more so than what we're seeing on commodity purchases and whatnot.
Well, I would like to make a comment. We did have Tim Fiore on just 2 days ago about exactly what you're saying, and he's as happy as a goose in a pond with the numbers. He went through a whole thing about why, even though it's kind of the numbers backed off a little bit, he's happy with those numbers, and he goes through a whole description. So I recommend to any of the audience that if you want to hear the other side of the pond talk, listen to our show from 2 days ago with Tim Fiore. I've never seen him so excited.
Tim Fury, I think I heard of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just look at what's going on out there. You drive on the roads today and they're packed, they're jam packed. And you look at activity and everything that's going on. And granted, we talk about the employment picture and saying that companies are still dealing with a tight labor market. Certain industries, as we know, are cutting back and either right sizing or whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, unemployment's at 3.4%. The last job reports that came out, look how many jobs are at it. Was it 517,000 job increase, right? So all the components or variables that make up what happens with a recessionary period. The only thing we're combating right now is the inflation piece. And hopefully we can get that under control. That I know with the monetary policy that's being put in place right now and interest rates rising, as much as I'd like to see those rates come down from a selfish perspective standpoint or whatever, right now we just have so many good things happening right now. So hopefully we can stay this course.
It's Tim.
Hey, Anthony, what are your respondents saying? And I just want to remind our listeners that in the report, which is available either through our website or at ismworld.org, they post the report and they show the comments, and the comments are really important. Anthony, why don't you share some of them?
Sure. We have 300 plus 350 members that participate on the business survey committee, and we Tim and I both go through all the comments that are submitted by all of the panelists, and we extrapolate the comments each month that we feel is reflective of what's going on, not only in the report, but overall in their enterprises, their respective enterprises as well. And right at the top of the what the respondents are saying in this report, which is on page 2, and this comes right from accommodation and food services. Sales activity is generally strong despite economic headwinds. And another one right after it from construction. Activity is steady. Costs continue to escalate, eliminating any profit we'd hope for in the first and second quarters. So there's a difference between two industries. We know that construction is impacted by new home builds and certain other things that we see, and that's a direct correlation to interest rates maybe stifling that. But overall, when you read through these respondent comments, it's mostly positive about the various industries and the companies that make up this sector. We had 13 industries reflect growth in February. So overall, and with 4 industries reporting a decrease. So when you look at that many industries, that just tells you one's unchanged. Out of the 18 that comprise this sector, things bode well for the services sector. And right now, even though the composite has been higher in the past at 55.1, it's reflecting a 1.8% annualized GDP growth when you look at it.
One industry in particular, which I will put in cast my bid for it to be moved over to the manufacturing sector, is the mining industry. And their comment was generally flat activity level. That's because it shouldn't be here. It should be over in manufacturing.
Well, I agree with you. I think any industry that, and for, mining's actually held their own pretty good, but in the past, they were the anchor pulling down the services sector. So I always wanted to like say, hey, why don't you go over to the manufacturing side? But,
Right.
I don't control that equation. But, when you look at the definition of service companies versus manufacturing companies, right? And Lou, I don't need to educate you on what the definition of manufacturing is. I mean, that's what you do. That's what your company does. And in mining, what are they actually doing, right? Exploration, they're moving stuff. They're not producing anything, right? They're just grabbing it out of the ground or wherever it might be. And then it's moved on to others to manufacture. So that's why it, in the NAICS code, that's why it wound up where it is.
I understand the logic. I don't necessarily agree with it.
Well, we can rationalize anything if we try hard enough.
That's true. That's true. Look at Congress. Oops, did I say something about politics?
Wait, do we have to look at Congress?
I hope not.
I hope not.
You told me before this was a live podcast, no dirty jokes. What are you doing?
That wasn't a dirty joke. You want to talk about what's his name who got convicted this morning?
Uh-oh, we're off on that bad tangent right now.
Yeah, 2 lifetime sentences.
I'm
Well-
glad I've been up too early to read anything.
That might be in the services sector, prisons and
Yeah.
punishment.
That's right.
Correctional facilities, yes, for sure.
Laundry,
Yep, I agree.
So Anthony, what are the respondents feeling about what we've all been hearing about for all of last year, this recession talk? What are you seeing in the comments? How are they feeling?
Yeah, that's great. And as Lou said, opening the show, I mean, we have not had much dialogue about recession from the economists or from, the mainstream media, or no one's talking about it anymore. And the same holds true. There's been a smattering of comments in the past about potential recession. And I think what happens is most companies get into that strategic cost management mindset, and they want to, use the analogy, keep their powder dry in a storm. So they literally will like batten down the hatches and look to be very conservative in their spend approach, trying to weather any potential impediments or roadblocks that they might incur. And one of that being the talk of recession. And right now, again, we have good, strong economic activity, low unemployment. The one thing we have to worry about is the inflation piece. And you look at the pricing index where it is at 65.6, it's down 2.2 percentage points, but in the mid 60s is still strong pricing increase month over month. So that has to come down. I think fuel is, again, come down a bit. Petroleum-based products, because of the price of oil, has come down, but there's still other components, and you can look on through the report for the list of what's up in price as well as in short supply. Certain commodity items are driving that. Others, as we know, metals were so strong for the longest. Right now on our list, we're just seeing stainless in there, but not like it was with across the board. We had steel and copper and everything was in there every month. And so we're starting to see some stabilization in pricing. Also with the logistics piece improving, capacity improving. So hopefully this will result in some relief on the pricing front down the road.
Maybe we shouldn't be talking about how good things are, because then the Federal Reserve will raise interest rates and get people fired, and the unemployment will go up to 6%, and that'll be the end of recession.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I like that scenario.
It's real easy. It's, they do that. This is what happens. Then when that happens, this happens. And then we start I was going to say something, the show all over again.
Yeah. That's, the typical quid pro quo, right?
Right.
Anthony, are there any services sectors that are particularly weak at the moment?
Well, if you look at the list and the 4 that reflected a decrease as far as industry performance, the one that sticks out is information. And we know the tech arena has definitely cut back some jobs, and we won't mention any names unless they're going to pay some kind of commercial endorsement to Jacket Media. We're not going to mention any names by company names or anything like that. But overall, we know that some of those high-tech companies have definitely taken out some labor out of the equation for their costs.
You mean like 10, 20,000 layoffs?
Yeah, again, no names. They have to pay.
No name, no
Yeah.
name, no politics, no dirty jokes.
Well, a strong report, is it consistent with your semi-annual forecast that came out in December or better than?
It's consistent, and I think we're slightly better because what our respondents told us was that the second half of 2023 would be better than the first half. And it's hard to believe that, we're only into the first quarter right now, but if this holds true, it's going to be a tough second half of the year to try and keep up with what we have coming out here with the pipeline, reflecting 62.6 for new orders. Granted, the pipeline is not as long in services as it is on the manufacturing side. It's more demand pull, but yet I anticipate or project these numbers to keep staying around that mid-50 range going forward. And time will tell what the second half will bring. And as Luke keeps saying there, there's no recession on the horizon from what we can see right now.
Boy, that's a real bold quote. I'd like to put that right on our website. Anthony Nieves says no recession.
I said there's no in sight right now, but that could change, Like I said, we have, not trying to be an economist on one hand or the other hand, but, what we see right now, and everything seems to line up in place, but we don't know what's going on with the whole geopolitical situation with Ukraine. And granted, China just reopened up, but, they've been doing a little saber rattling ever since that balloon got shot down. It's kind of like when then the two other balloons. I'm lost on this balloon thing. I thought there was a shortage of helium anyway. I don't know how they're getting those things up in the air.
Did you see the Goodyear new balloon?
I have not.
It's black and with yellow writing. It says, "Don't shoot."
I thought it was going to say manufacturing talk radio.
That'll be next.
Yeah,
It was
right.
black and yellow and
Yeah,
writing.
well, that I put in for that, and they did that. So,
I guess we
Don't-
need our own dirigible.
yeah, just don't
Definitely.
shoot.
I don't want to gain any weight and wear a yellow jacket and be mistaken for that Goodyear blimp.
Well, Anthony, as we have discovered so many times, when the report is good, it's more difficult to talk about the report because it's got so much good news in it.
Well, I don't want to wait for the other shoe to drop, right? But yeah, the report is good, and it's been that way. And I look at some of the the intangibles, as I was telling others this morning, and I mentioned it about the road activity, the traffic. People are going somewhere. They're working. They're producing. Services are happening. All this is going on, and the foot traffic out there. We see accommodation and food services. People are now more frequently dining. We can really get into some, let's talk, want to stir Lou up a little bit, and we'll talk about the cash price versus the credit card price in restaurants.
Oh, don't get me started with that. Don't get me started. I've already lost 2 or 3 restaurants I don't go to anymore.
Oh, boy.
I just got one where I paid an automotive bill and they added 3% on the bill to cover their, they're passing through the cost of the honor of honoring Visa, MasterCard, American Express.
Yeah, but
Discover.
what were they doing before?
They were eating it.
Right, and now they don't want to eat it. They want you to eat it.
Correct. Actually, there used to be a clause in those agreements that said they could not pass it on.
It's in there. It's kind of like the gentleman that goes on a trip and he's in the windy city of Chicago. His hat blows off, goes down the street. He winds up getting back to his home office. He puts it on his expense account. The controller calls him up, says, "You can't expense that." He does that for 2-3 successive months. And the guy says, "If I see that one more time, you're in deep trouble." So the next month he puts his expense account in. And the controller calls him up. I said, I don't see the hats in there. He said, good thing. He says, oh, no, it's in there. It's your job. Find it. So the costs are in there. It's just a matter of whether they line item it or not.
Of course, I think Lou's solution makes more sense for the restaurants to simply bury it in the cost of food,
Yeah, raise the price of the food.
and then nobody gets worked up.
Just put a label on it, cash discount.
Yeah, right. Well, you can do that. Just charge 8% and give you a 3% discount, and you can say 3% discount, and everybody will be happy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's all
Anthony,
semantics.
Anthony, you pointed out, I think in our last discussion, that the gasoline companies have been doing it forever at their stations. So, there's the cash price and there's the credit card price.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was one that I would use my debit card to pay for fuel, but I had heard somewhere that if you, especially if you say credit and you don't have to put a PIN in, it saves you from any potential scams, when the people are putting these scanners on these things and card readers and everything, and they get your PIN number, you don't want to have that happen. But then I realized that because I'm saying credit instead of debit, I'm paying an extra 3 cents a gallon, so I want to use my fuel rewards. I want to get that down, especially when, I was filling up my SUV and I looked at the bill. I thought it was a monthly heating bill or something. It was so huge.
What is gas a gallon in California these days?
Well, right now, I have to put the high octane in, so it's costing me like in the low $4 range, but it was well over $5 at one point in time. I remember I actually snapped a picture of it. I filled up my my SUV and it was $170, to fill up that beast. I'd never seen it that high ever. Now I still break $100, but it's not near that one.
You
168, 170.
Californians are rich, you can afford it.
Oh boy. I can't even afford a yellow jacket. How rich can I be?
Well, it was great having you on today. It's a good report, really a good report. We're gonna have to talk to Tim about why he was so happy. I mean, he was so happy he was beside himself. So that being said, we'll see you next month. And
definitely. I appreciate being on the show as always. Good seeing you, gentlemen, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you much.
We certainly will, and we want to thank everyone who is joining us either on radio or checking us out on YouTube or our website. And thank you for joining us for this episode of Manufacturing Talk Radio.
And don't forget about KLEA in Cornell, New York. We don't want to forget our sole radio station that we're on, but we'll be on many more within the months to come. So look for us. You'll find us. Have a good day, good month, and Tim, we'll be talking again.
Talk to you later.